Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In regards to today's video, we're going to be touching on a few different things, and I wanted to start off talking about Jagmeet Singh. Now, he's been on a bit of a media showcase, especially since last week he announced that he would be supporting the budget of the Liberals, the federal budget. Now, with this announcement, he started to kind of attack Pierre and show that he was the bigger, better man than Pierre in regards to when he got kicked out. And this is what he said.
I showed that I accept responsibility for my actions. Very different from Pierre Poilievre, who sulked, who complained, who after clearly doing something he knew was not acceptable, challenged the speaker and then went on to ask for the speaker to resign or to be removed from their position. A very different position. And I put to Canadians, it shows the character of the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, a coward, not someone who's willing to accept responsibility for their actions, complains about someone who's basically the referee of the House of Commons, complains and attacks that person instead of accepting responsibility for their actions. I took a position, I maintained my position, I took my lumps. A big difference in character between me and Pierre Poilievre. But ultimately, if the speaker makes a ruling, I think what the response of a parliamentarian should be is you accept the ruling and then you move on. And what we saw from Pierre Poilievre is this is what a bully does. Tries to be a bully, but when confronted, is a coward and runs away. That's what the Conservatives did. That's what Pierre Poilievre did. I did it very differently. I took my lumps. I moved on. I didn't tell my whole caucus to leave the chamber. We continued to do our job to hold the government to account.
Now, I find it quite interesting that Jagmeet's saying that Pierre was being a bully for standing up for the fact that there was a double standard with the Speaker of the House, when the other day he just came out with this video where he sounds very much like a bully himself.
48 hours. Pierre, I'm giving you 48 hours to decide. Because women have worked way too hard to see their rights rolled back. So you have 2 days to decide whether you're going to stop blocking our attempt to bring in free birth control for women, or New Democrats will force through that legislation whether you want it or not. Either way, New Democrats will show you can't mess with women's rights in Canada.
Now, I don't know if somebody's got to tell them that free birth control isn't under the Charter of Rights, but what does he mean by free? Where is this freeness going to happen from? Because obviously somebody's going to be having to pay for this program that makes this contraception free, and it sounds like that'll most likely be from Canadians. But it's also ironic that this guy wants to talk about protecting women and women's rights when he's all for trans individuals and men taking spots from women in sports and in their spaces and all that stuff. It's kind of rich coming from this guy. But, you know, it's not surprising that he's trying to take a page out of the Liberals' playbook, because they just tried this tactic on Friday during the House of Commons, where they were attacking Pierre, even though he wasn't there, in regards to the Charter of Rights, and kind of spinning this weird story by Steve McKinnon here. And even Steve McKinnon got called out by the Conservatives, saying, like, you guys are giant hypocrites because you're the ones who did that yourselves.
Continue to insist they don't have enough data from the BC government to end the open drug use of hard drugs like cocaine or fentanyl on streets, in playgrounds and in hospitals in British Columbia. The BC government confirmed that they sent the Liberals the data that they requested within hours of asking. But if the minister can't make a decision, how about the fact that more British Columbians sadly died of overdoses in January and February of 2024 than in all of 2014? Wow. Why are these Liberals not being honest with Canadians and just end their radical drug policy?
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, every step of the way we have been working hand in hand with provincial jurisdictions, communities and municipalities across this country, speaking to families, speaking to health teams to understand how we save lives, Mr. Speaker. We are working with the province of BC on the amendment to their proposal. We need to get it right, Mr. Speaker. We need to make sure that communities are safe, but we also need to make sure that people aren't dying alone, that they are getting the healthcare services that they need. You can't treat someone if they're dead, Mr. Speaker. We are committed to saving lives.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if that member thinks that BC's experience with open public drug use is so so great, then why isn't she advocating for it in her province? I was talking to a resident just 2 days ago from my constituency.
Hold on a sec. We are getting a lot of yelling back and forth, and I would appreciate it if people could just keep it down. I know. I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing a lot from all ends of the chamber. So I just want to make sure that we keep the down as we debate these important issues. The honourable member of Kelowna Lake Country.
From the top.
Well, Mr. Speaker, if that member thinks that the BC experience with open public drug policies and drug use is so great, then why isn't she advocating for it in her own province? I was talking to a resident from my community just a couple nights ago who told me she came around the corner from her apartment to be faced with something that burnt her eyes. And people were openly using drugs on the street. She is rightfully concerned about what she is exposed to, and unfortunately this is not an isolated incident. After 9 years of this Prime Minister, enough is enough. Why are these Liberals not being honest with Canadians and just end their drug policies?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Of course, Mr. Speaker, that question has been asked many times and answered many times by my honourable colleague, the Minister. What I want to know, this member is a female member of her caucus. This morning, the headline reads, "Conservatives don't rule out using notwithstanding clause beyond criminal justice matters."
Shameful.
50 years ago, Roe v. Wade was enacted in the U.S., and women have lived under that protection in the U.S. for 50 years. For 42 years.
Order. Goes all ways. To be able to keep it down so I can actually hear the answers, the questions, and of course the answers. The Honourable Government House Leader.
From the top.
15 seconds.
For 50 years, women in the U.S. have lived under the protection of Roe v. Wade. For 42 years in Canada, women in Canada have lived under the protection of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now Conservatives will not rule out using the notwithstanding clause beyond criminal justice matters. Will that member stand in her place and tell us what rights from women does she intend to take away?
Here. Honourable member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
Mr. Speaker, after 9 years, this Prime Minister is clearly not worth the cost. His minister responsible for hard drugs on the streets is misleading Canadians. She said the Liberal government is waiting for more information from BC on if they should reverse their decision that allows cocaine, opioids and fentanyl in parks, playgrounds and hospitals. The BC NDP government confirmed they answered within hours to the government's request for more information. Why is this Liberal NDP government misleading Canadians, and why can't they just end their disastrous drug policy?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that member needs to unplug from the wall, replug and reboot. He's not listening to the earlier questions. We've told them very clearly, BC has requested changes, and we are working with BC to make those changes. But maybe that member will tell us specifically which freedoms, which rights described in the 42-year-old Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms that Canadians cherish, will he be advocating removing from Canadian women, from Canadian people? Is it the freedom of expression? Is it reproductive rights?
The Honourable Member for North Okanagan-Shuswap.
I'd like to remind the member that his government illegally invoked the Emergencies Act, removing civil liberties from Canadians.
Exactly what they did. Guilty of it. Broke the law.
Like, these guys are so out of touch. I don't think they understand that we all see them. We all see what kind of charades they're doing and shenanigans. And especially, again, with Jugmeet, it's like this guy's trying to lay the groundwork to become the next Prime Minister, not this time around, but next time around. He's going to say, oh, look at all the fancy things that I got you guys. I got you pharmacare, and I got you free birth control, and I got you diabetes medication, which I am for that one. I understand that medication and devices could probably cost a lot, but that's like one thing that this guy's potentially going to get involved. The dental care for seniors. I mean, unless it requires dentures, replacements, or allowing them to get dentures, I don't know how much they really need checkups when their teeth are probably gone. But just a few hours ago, he released this video again attacking Pierre.
Let me give you 100 reasons why not to trust Pierre Poilievre. 100 of the nation's leading corporate lobbyists, both former and present, have met with and donated to Pierre Poilievre. These aren't just any old corporate lobbyists. These are the ones that represent the greedy CEOs, big oil and gas, big pharma, big corporate landlords and real estate investors. That's who he's meeting. And it shows in the way he's voting. I'll let you make your own determination, but I don't think it's a coincidence that he voted against pharmacare, which would have meant lower costs for medication, something that Big Pharma is clearly opposed to. He voted against a school lunch program, which would have saved money for families, made sure kids aren't hungry, but would maybe impact the bottom line for big corporate grocery stores. He voted against a renters protection fund, which would protect renters against big corporate landlords. Again, he sided with big corporate landlords. It is very clear whose side he's on. I'll let you be the one to judge all these things, but let's be clear, New Democrats are on your side. We've been fighting for you. We don't work for the billionaires or the big corporations. We work for you.
And what a load of crap that is. This guy is only working for himself and his pension. Here he is talking about corporate greed and lobbyists. Well, if we take a look at this article from a few months ago with the National Post, this is talking about the big grocers and when they got called in to talk about lowering grocery prices like Galen Weston. Well, the article goes on to explain who's been tied to who and who's involved with what, yet they seem to have left out one individual, which I thought was interesting, because they talked about the lobbying for Metro. Well, it's a partner of Crestview Strategy, and who actually works there? Jugmeet's own brother, Crestview Strategy, as you can see there. But not only does he work there, he's actually vice president there. And it says, he's an advocate, strategist, and a former member of the Ontario Provincial Parliament. And he's the vice president at the Crestview Strategy based in Toronto. I mean, do these guys not own mirrors? Do they need to invest in a mirror? It's essentially the pot calling the kettle black. Especially for Jagmeet, because he's the big savior for people with high grocery prices, right? He's that advocate that wants to bring grocery prices down, but his own brother works for Metro, which probably has high grocery prices themselves. But what do I know? These guys are much, much different than Pierre. We should definitely vote for NDP or Liberal or whoever else, not the Conservatives, who seem to be trying their hardest to get an early election, to get this government out, to not have a terrible budget, which keeps getting supported by the NDP Liberals, shut down with all the votes that we keep putting forward. But it's the Conservatives who want to tear down the Charter of Rights and take away your freedoms, not the other people who are holding us hostage until next year's election. Couldn't have been them. But anyways, love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this. Hope you guys are enjoying your weekend. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.